After the first 2 races of the season, saying that Mercedes are slow isn't going to make any headlines, but the extent of their slowness might be surprising to some. Because in Saudi, they'd run a low downforce setup. That meant speed in Sector 2 and Sector 3, but super slowness in Sector 1. So slow were they in Sector 1 that some say that when Max was full throttle, they were only about 50 or 60. That is bonkers. Others say their pace was comparable to Alpine, maybe even a bit slower. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. And what's the root cause of this, you ask? Well, Andrew Shovlin on the Mercedes Debrief says that fundamentally all race weekend, their car lacked balance. The car snapping to oversteer around a track when the drivers need to trust it most. Messrs Russell and Hamilton complained incessantly about a fundamental lack of grip. And surely around the death-defying flowy turns that epitomise Jeddah, grip at high speed is the one thing that you need. But I mean, to lose 4/10 over the course of one lap is chaos for the 8-time constructors, but they were losing 4/10 in Sector 1 alone. Not good enough. And even more worryingly, Andrew Shovlin, when quizzed on their decision to start Messrs Russell and Hamilton on the mediums as opposed to the soft, Shovlin said that the softs were the tyre to be, and had they known the timing of the safety car. But being a god-tier technical buffing, I'd expect better from Shov. F1 history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. As long as they've run a Saudi Grand Prix, there has always been a safety car. And when's it most likely to happen, Shov? When the track is most congested, in the early running. Indeed, each and every single time at Saudi, the safety cars come out between lap 1 and lap 20. What are you talking about, Shov? And it only gets worse because when asked to explain why the team didn't double stack with Lewis, Shov once again cites that everything is 2020 with the benefit of hindsight. And Mercedes have placed all their eggs in the second safety car basket. This is chaos. Shov continues by talking about the operational difficulty and risk that comes with the double stack, having to release Lewis into traffic in the pit lane. And whilst that's true, of course, that didn't stop them in the past. Lest we forget, Mercedes in 2019 at the Chinese Grand Prix executed probably the most perfect double stack that you will ever see. So what's changed? Against this backdrop, it's no surprise then to hear Mercedes technical buffing James Allison take aim at the new rules and regs. Allison says that he doesn't think the rules have failed as far as Red Bull's domination. No, that responsibility rests on the other 9 teams. It is our job, says Allison, to try and make a good fight of it. No kidding, Sherlock. But I think there are things in the regulations, he continues, that don't serve any of us well. Allison suggests that a reconfiguration of the floor is required, that the response to rear ride height isn't particularly good for the cars and not something that the FIA should carry through to 2026. Rear ride height response. This is the very thing that Mercedes are currently struggling with and have been for the past 24 months. Non-Mercedes fans will cry sour grapes. And in other F1 news, Flavio Briatore suggested that Charles Leclerc may have the measure of Lewis Hamilton, speculating that if Lewis were in the red car now, he would know better or worse than Leclerc. But you rest easy, Flavio, because the sun timer is ticking. It's less than 12 months before we get to see this duel between 2 F1 behemoths. And in other we're slower than Red Bull news, Fernando Alonso has said that he thinks that Aston Martin are currently anywhere between 2 and 3/10 off the pace of Mercedes and McLaren. The gods of competitive racing will be shielding their eyes. We'd hoped that Aston Martin were maybe one of 3 who could stick it to Red Bull. This doesn't bode well. And on the back of a crazy couple of weeks in the F1 news cycle, F1.com is leaning in to drive a silly season, publishing their predictions for the lineup in 2025. Most notably, they see the man from Oviedo, Asturias, Fernando Alonso, in that seat alongside King George Russell. Chaos personified. Carlos Sainz, they predict, will take Alonso's place alongside Lance Stroll. Antonelli drives for Williams. Hulkenberg at Sauber. Lawson, they predict, will displace Danny Rick. Oh, the humanity. And Bearman, they predict, will take the final seat in Haas alongside Kevin Magnussen. Speaking of whom, the Bearman has spoke about how happy and proud he was to get praise from 2 of the all-time greats in Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso. His favourite message, however, came from 4-time champion Juan Sebastian Vettel. Ollie said, I'm a huge fan of Sebastian Vettel since the early days. I cheered for him until the day he retired. To get a message from him, well, that was really special. Bearman continued to know that Seb was watching, put a bit of pressure on, but it was a good type of pressure. And in other news, Oscar Piastri and Rio Hirakawa have been testing an unbranded McLaren 36. And boy, did that car look good. Clean, stealthy, slick even. And Formula Uno reports that the Ferrari this year is night and day from last, that they've made great strides as far as solving for their tyre deg issues that so plagued them in previous years. The article continues that Ferrari are now happy with their base, that they have a chassis off of which they can build and develop, potentially challenging Red Bull down the line. Here's hoping. And Ferrari CEO John Elkann only underlines this, saying if you look at where we were a year ago, we started better. But the important thing, he continues, is to improve and progress. This is the dynamic that exists at Ferrari, and it should be praised and supported. There is a desire to ensure that we bring the Ferrari and do the best possible. This, says Alcon, is palpable. The hopes and prayers for a competitive 2024, it seems, rest on one team's shoulders then. The red team. Forza Ferrari.